Hello and welcome to Artist Express. Today our guest is Tyler Atkinson, a musician who lives in Lindsborg. Tyler, would you like to start out by just telling us a little bit about how you came to music or how music came to you, and give us an idea about your practice?
Yeah, I think the first vivid memory I have of music is actually White Snake, the 80s hair metal band. My aunt, who was a good influence in that way, gave me a cassette tape, and just got really obsessed with the sounds. And then as I grew, I got really interested in Michael Jackson for a while. And I think the older I've gotten, the more interested I've become in good songwriting, and kind of came to acoustic music in college. I heard a couple of acts that like Nickel Creek, and I think they were maybe in their prime when I was around that age, and I never paid much attention to roots music. And I grew up in North Carolina, and did not grow up listening to it. I was more a rock and roller when I was younger.
Right. I feel very privileged to be a rock and roller too. I was there when it started. I was in 6th grade when rock and roll came. So did you, as a child, take music lessons of any kind?
No, I was in church choir as a child, and some ensembles, choral ensembles in middle school, but I didn't grow up in a super musical home. It wasn't like there were instruments lying around. So when I was 15, I think I used my birthday money to get my first electric guitar, and played in a band in high school, and just kind of learned from the guys that I played with, and eventually started taking some lessons. Just private lessons, basically. Right.
Well, in general, would you say, now you do songwriting as well as performing, right? So how long did it take you to come to the place where you wanted to write your own songs rather than performing other people's work?
I think maybe immediately. Not that they were good in any objective sense, but I think just putting thoughts on a page, looking for words that seemed appropriate, it was a way for me to process teenage angst. And frankly, I guess it was sort of like when U2 started, I wasn't good enough to play other people's stuff. So just making stuff up with my friends, writing really horrible poetry that just makes me cringe. I'm married to my high school sweetheart, and she kept all the little poems and stuff I wrote, and I cannot bring myself to look at them. But
does she have a scrapbook?
I think she's got some kind of.
They're just stashed away where you can't get at them.
Right, because I would destroy them.
Well, I know that you teach at Bethany College, and so I'm interested to hear about how. And you have a family and with young children, and I'm curious about how your everyday life influences your music.
I think the questions that I ask in an academic setting at Bethany, in the classroom or in my academic writing, are the same questions that I'm interested in asking in my music, and the music feels sort of like the culmination of the academic work that I do. There's a different economy of language in songwriting than there is in academic writing, and it's kind of nice to be able to show more emotion and not to have to footnote things. I think that's probably a struggle I have with songwriting, is because when I write, you know, a book chapter or something, I have to, you know, defend every little thing.
Yes.
And it's really liberating not to have to do that in songwriting, but I still have that temptation to explain myself, and the whole reason I do it is so I don't have to explain myself.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think I guess the questions that kind of animate my lyrics are inspired by what I do for a living and by home life and so forth. Yeah.
And then how about your students? Do they know that you make music as well as teach?
Yes, I put out an EP in the spring, and I guess I mentioned it in classes, and I play open mics in Lindsborg, and have played some gigs in town, and students show up. So yeah, and sometimes it's fun, like if a song is loosely based on something we're discussing in class, I might bring an instrument and play it.
Oh, great.
Just it's a different way into, say, a biblical text or piece of history or whatever.
I think that sounds like a good class to take. Now, who do you listen to now? I realize you started with the hair bands, which my boys did too, and my son has actually handed that on to our grandson, who is also an avid hair band guy, as you said. But how have your tastes changed or expanded, perhaps, in the years since you started being attracted to music?
Like I said, I think I became much more a lyrics person later, and maybe it's because I was trying to write lyrics and wanting to listen to good songwriters. I guess there's two directions, and on the one hand, I've looked further back. A couple years ago, I went to the Woody Guthrie Museum in Tulsa and was really inspired, and you know, listening to those folks, but then a lot of the sort of contemporary Americana artists. Jason Isbell is probably everybody's favorite songwriter, one of everybody's favorite songwriters. But even, you know, listening to him, you know, took me back to John Prine, because he mentions John Prine a lot. I just saw Gillian Welch at the Stiefel.
I missed that one.
It was incredible, and she and Dave Rawlings are sort of the perfect pair, because, you know, lyrics people are satisfied, you know, when they hear the lyrics, and Dave Rawlings' guitar playing is just incredible. So I guess, yeah, the list just goes on and on.
I usually associate that kind of music with storytelling.
Yeah.
Because so many in the Woody Guthrie era, that's what was happening. We were hearing the tales of the past, and then of course it came to social protest time. And so, have you listened to much of the music that was made in the Joan Baez, Bob Dylan era? I have all my old 33 1/3 albums from those years.
Yeah, I lately have been drawn to Dylan's Blood on the Tracks record. Just, yeah, I mean, the fact that he can write a song that just goes on and on forever and keep you engaged, wanting to hear the story. And as a person trained in religious ethics, you know, I'm interested in how stories convey, you know, a kind of ethical imagination, and you know, they don't. Story songs can take you to a place ethically without coming across as preachy. That I find really moving, and I think that's why I like folks like Jason Isbell, because he's from the South, where I'm from. He tells stories about characters that, like, I know, but then there is a sort of social justice bent, you know.
That's universal.
Yeah.
That would go on and on. If so, it's sounding as if I know what the answer is going to be, but if you could meet a musical artist right now, who would you like it to be, living or dead?
Oh, goodness. I think I would like to meet Woody Guthrie. Yeah. And it's not because he's my favorite,
right?
But I just love what he stood for, and his music sounded like the place that he was from.
Right. The life experience.
Yeah.
Really.
I think him, or maybe Pete Seeger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think maybe I feel a little more hope when I listen to Pete Seeger, and Turn, Turn, Turn has a sort of special place in my heart. I wrote my first academic book on the biblical book of Ecclesiastes, and hearing Pete Seeger tell the story of how that song came to be written and made popular by the Byrds is just really moving to me.
It's a wonderful song, too. Well, Tyler, would you give us an example of your work?
Yes.
Perform for us today?
I'd be happy
All right.
to.
Very good.
So this is Weeds, which is on an EP I put out back in May called Vanity Project, Volume 1. I know every weed I pull, I give to each one a name. There's one for every kid from school, responsible for my pain. And when they go and the new vines grow, and I take up my hoe to fight, I feel like Jesus sowing the seed, so I hope some turn out all right. I know every street in this town, I know for whom they're named, and the ghosts of their victims flutter around when I whisper beside their grave. Well, they speak to me, they say, please don't you leave, there's work that we need, real life. I feel like Moses parting the sea, I want to cross in the nick of time. I know every lie that's told by he who shall not be named. His name ain't worth its weight in gold, a deceiver deflecting the blame. And oh, the delusion, inventing illusions, a magician just using the light. I feel like Joseph with all of these dreams. Oh, which one speaks truth tonight? I feel like Jesus sowing the seed, so I hope some turn out all right. Oh, I hope some turn out all right.
Thank you for being with us today, and thank you, Tyler, for joining us and giving us a brief taste of your medicine. Remember, his EP, you call it, is that new way to say album?
Well, it's only 5 songs. It's not a full-length record.
But available through?
It's on iTunes, Spotify, Bandcamp, Tyler Atkinson, Vanity Project, Volume 1.
Great. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.